this is me, Harshita. I'm the founder of the Ashtavakra Talent Academy, and this is Depression Part 3. Now, Depression Part 3, I am going to explain you Depression Part 3 with a very genuine and a meaningful, true event-based example. So for this example, I've taken it from a tradition called Guru Shishya Parampara. It existed in the ancient times and you'll still find it at some places. So there was this one guru and he had 30 of his Shishya students who he was taking for educational purposes to a jungle where he wanted all his students to get introduced to the medicinal herbs that were found in the jungles at the olden time. It was part of their education. So he took all the students in the jungle, and after returning on their way back from the jungle, it started raining heavily and there was a drain on the way back to the jungle, and at the time that they were going to the jungle, it was dry. There was nothing bad about it and they crossed it easily. But when they were coming back, on their way back to the ashram, that drain was flooded with water and they were not able to cross it. And some of the students were thinking and brainstorming how to get across the drain. So one of the students, he thought of using a tree, using the stem of a very thick heavy stem of the tree to get across the drain. So as all of the students were thinking about how to come out, how to do what, and within that period of time, there was this one charming lady who was standing across the drain, who was standing near the drain. So that lady was crying for help and she wanted to cross that drain to reach to her village, which was exactly as far as the ashram was for the student. So that lady, she was very young, very beautiful, and because traditionally all the women who used to live in a jungle back then, they used to wear only one cloth. They used to wrap one cloth all over their body, and some of their body parts were exposing. So that was not a very covered cloth that she was wearing. So all of the students, they were young, and of course the lady was very charming, beautiful, young, and the way she was wearing the clothes, it really attracted a lot of students. So because it was raining, it kind of looked even more provoking to them because of the way she was looking. It was quite erotic. Now I don't want to sound vulgar here, so as she was crying for help, she went to the Guruji who was leading the whole students, and she went to him and asked if he could help her, if there is any way that she can cross the drain, and she really wanted to reach to her village, and how she could do so, she had no idea. So what he did as Guru, he just stood there quietly for a few seconds and he decided, okay, I'll help you. And he told her, okay, you sit on my shoulder and I'll just drop you to the other side of the drain so that you can cross and go back to your village. So he did exactly that. He picked that lady, and because of the tradition, all 30 students, they were following their guru, their master. So as they were following him, the master dropped that lady across the drain, and they were all just following the master, and they reached their ashram. Now after all of their normal day routine, everything was happened in the ashram, and at the end of the day, when he called all the students traditionally to end the day with some prayers and a lot of stuff, so when all of them came, the Guruji or the master noticed one thing about all of the students. Their faces were grimmed and they were holding something inside them. They all looked very worried and tensed because of their face, and there was something that was going inside of their head, which Guruji was able to see very clearly. So he asked all of the students that what is it that you are trying to hide from me? Is there something that you want to share with me, Or is there something that I must know and I'm not able to understand what's going on with you, but I can surely tell from all of your faces that something is wrong. So one of the student, he decided, okay, I'll just talk to Guruji. Why is that so? He said that we all are brahmacharyas. We all are following brahmacharya, right? So they were all brahmacharis. Brahmacharis are traditionally the people who do not marry or who stay away from any kind of connection that way. So they were all following brahmacharya, and they asked Guruji, how is that so that we all are following brahmacharya, and that lady, very charming and very beautiful in the rain, her parts, a lot of her body parts were exposing, they were all not covered, and she was looking very beautiful and attractive. She sat on your shoulders, you touched her body. How is this is done? This is not done. We are all brahmacharis, and how you got a chance to touch her, how you got a chance to hold her on your shoulders, and you just did all that with that beautiful charming lady whose body parts were exposing, and that was not pleasant at all for a lot of students. So they just straight away asked, and then my friend Guruji, he just smiled. Yes, he just smiled at all of them's faces that, wow. He was just smiling, and he answered that how stupid people you all are. You all still carrying the mental load of that incident, of that lady, when I just dropped her physically right there across the drain. I'm not holding her anymore. Not on my head, neither on my shoulder. I'm not holding anyone anymore. And look at you fools. You're still carrying the load, the mental load on your heads. For me, it was nothing. And after that incident, the students were stunned. Now, I want to ask you all, isn't that crazy how people who were involved in that incident did not get affected, and how people who were just observing around that person, who were just the audience, they got so affected, they got so anxious over the issue that they felt really bad about it. That how can Guruji do this to us? When all he did was nothing. How stupid is that for the students to think about it like that? And this is exactly what all of us do. We sometimes get so depressed about unnecessary stuff that we do not even need, which is weird. We should not react that way. And when you slowly acting like that, when you slowly and gradually it becomes your attitude, it becomes your tendency, what happens then? It turns into a slow and deep regression, which turns into depression, as I said in my previous video. This is how it works. It first became your attitude become your tendency, and then after it has become your tendency to see things like that, be a victim of world, be a victim of everything, when there's nothing in your control, when you're not yourself doing it. Being an observer and taking a lot of tension about what is happening and limitizing yourself in a way that causes depression. And it is a thing that just slowly in years and gradually it happens. And how to identify when it is actually happening to you? There are some certain signals that you will get when you'll find yourself in depression, and how you can do it. For this, you need to understand and look around. Yes, you just need to look around and see the behavior of your nearest and dearest people, your family, your spouse, your friends, best friends, people you've grown up with since childhood till now, all the people who have supported you, all the people who have been the most important persons in your life. You would feel a difference, that they are distancing from you, they're avoiding any contact with you, because due to your tendency, due to your this attitude of taking things onto yourself and be a victim of the world, Your this attitudes become the reason of your irritation, the reason of your anxieties, the reason of your aggression. And even on the things that you used to take normally and react normally to with your loved and dearest people, you would start reacting so bad on that you would use unwanted words, very anxious and tense words towards people, and they're not gonna like it. And they'll try to avoid any certain contact with you just because you are not that person anymore. And you do not realize it. The moment you do understand these signs or signals, this is a sign that you're slowly and gradually, it is becoming your attitude and it is causing you to be in depression. You just need to understand that. And when we get into this depressed state of mind, when there's no one to help us, where to go, how to express ourselves, and how to understand what is happening with us, we'll go to the doctors, we'll go here and there to therapists and everybody we could go to. And we want a solution that would just get us out of the depression in just 1 minute or 2 minutes or just seconds even. And how is that possible when you're in depression? The only way we find then, the only way the so-called doctors or so-called psychiatrists would do to you, psychologists would do to you, is antidepressants. Now antidepressants, does it sound familiar word to a lot of you people? Have you been taking it for quite long? Then I dare you to listen this video, because I'm going to tell you the reality that even as an NLP practitioners who are working in their respected fields, it is based on their experience. Even they agree that taking antidepressant is not at all a solution. It is a lie that you're telling to yourself, and you cannot fool yourself for too long. Just suppose if you've been on antidepressant for 13 or 24 years, even as an NLP practitioner, even as a working life coach, they all face it. Even if you're working in your respective field, and if you've taken the antidepressant on 13 years or more than 13 years or 24 years or so on and so on, you would understand this one truth about it. The moment you'll stop taking it, you would be in the exact same pain, exact same suffering of the exact moment that you started taking your first pill. This is what is going to happen to you, and you'll be even worse situation than you were before. And there's another bad thing about antidepressant, and that's a reality that we need to focus on, people. After a certain moment, what the doctor will do, if you're not able to treat your depression from an antidepressant, he will just prescribe you a higher dose of the antidepressant. The higher, the higher, the higher, the higher, so on and so on. It goes all of your life. And you're just living your life on an antidepressant, looking like making a joke of yourself. And the moment you'll stop, you'll realize one thing, that after a certain period, after a certain extent that you've taken the antidepressant, after 15 years, after 14 years, after getting the higher and higher doses, it will stop working. Yes, no matter how high the dose is, no matter how high dosage you take of antidepressant, it will stop working on you. And this is where you will feel like, what have you done to yourself all these years you've just spent on the antidepressant, which was a lie you were telling to yourself. And the situation has not gotten any better. One moment when it will stop working on you, what will you do? You'll find yourself in the worst position that you've ever thought you'd be in. When you first started that antidepressant, you'll be left with thoughts of suiciding. You'll be left with suicidal thoughts. What will you do? Now, when you're depressed, how would you call that person? When a person is depressed, it is not that there is something wrong with your body. They're not a machine that all of the parts that they have got broken, or they're crazy, or they're out of their head. There is something wrong in their body. There's something wrong with their head, their brain. Something is broken inside. Something is, needs to be fixed. It's not like that. They're just human beings with unmet needs. Why don't people understand that? And the moment you'll understand that, it may be too late. And the reason why I'm telling you this is the value that we take, the power of our thoughts, mind and desires, as I said in my last video. That depression is nothing but a reaction to the repressing world. And this is what it is. And to all of the people who say, be yourself, do what you love, be whatever you want to be, it is just the rubbish things to say to anyone who is depressed. The correct way to handle is be with us. Be we, don't be you. And the reason why I'm saying this, I will tell you the solutions and the reasons, strong, rigid reasons behind that video. And if you want to know more, then you'll have to stay connected to me, stay tuned to me for my next videos to come, where I'll be taking you towards the solutions. And why do I need to tell you this? I'm leaving this with a question. I'm leaving this on a note where I'd like you to understand that, have you ever noticed you go out and eat, junk food, you eat the food that you love, you eat, when you know that junk foods can destroy your body, junk food is not good for your health, your mental health, your body and all of that stuff. It takes you to health diseases, to kidney dysfunctions, to a lot of things, to obesity, and there are just a lot of things that you have to deal with when you're living on a junk food. And the moment you start taking junk inside your body reacts in that way only. Your body becomes a junk itself. And we need to understand, if we are putting in a body the junk values, this is what we will get our attitude like. And we will be depressed, we will be anxious, we will be repressed, we will be the victim of the world. Because the value that we are feeding our brain, the value that we are feeding our mind, the value that we are feeding our body has junk. It is the value full of junk. And this is why our body is reacting in certain way. It is not with the world, it is not, most of the time it is not with the world, it is not with the atmosphere, with the situations, with the people. It is most of the times our mind, our brain, that is the most suffering thing that we have. And it is because of the self-created reasons a lot of times. Now that I'm taking you towards the solution, I want you to stay tuned with my videos, as I'll be posting a lot of solutions for you all. You can stay tuned to that, and it would be great if you could just subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it with your friends, and do let me know your feedback in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!